Oh, hey guys, how's it going? Just checking out some exterior doors here at the Builders First Source showroom. You know, when you go door shopping, there's a lot of options. It can be overwhelming to see a showroom like this. So in the Build Show today, I'm gonna break it down for you. What are these doors made of? What do they cost? We're gonna talk about both interior and exterior doors, plus all the accessories. Today's Build Show is sponsored by Endura. Let's get going. Okay, so we're actually gonna start with interior doors. We'll come back to exterior doors in a minute. But when you go to the showroom, you're gonna notice a bunch of different options on interior doors, and frankly, a lot of different costs. Your least cost interior door is something like this. This is a hollow core door. And to be honest, this video was a little bit inspired by my buddy Brent Hall, who recently cut one of these open to see what was inside. I think Brent actually sums it best. Let's cut to that video real quick.
I guess I've been disenchanted over the last, I don't know, 20, 30 years at doors. And I remember my father-in-law was building a house when we first got married. I just finished North Bennett Street. And I remember the doors were so flimsy and cheap, and I was just kind of disgusted by it, especially coming from my background and everything else. So I want to just kind of highlight what's happened to doors and hopefully steer you away from buying the cheapest thing out there, because it's a picture of a door, right? It's not even a door, it's a picture of one. It's kind of a door, but anyway. So 1900s, my building, 1921. This is a stile and rail door, right? So we've got stiles, we've got rails, we've got raised panels. This is a very simple raised panel that was very popular in the 20s. This is a real door. If you look from the top, you can see the stile and rail profile. So the stile has what's called a sticking, right? And then there's a cope on the rails, because they cope into there, and there's joinery in here. There's dowels, or there's a mortise and tenon joint. And so, you know, after 1900, you get away from the through mortise and tenons and the wedged mortise and tenons and the things that were popular pre-1900. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, and I'll just knock this thing out of here. Okay. No joinery, it's just glued together. So there's our cope. They've just glued this together. There's no dowels, there's nothing inside here, there's no joinery, they just have glued it together. They also, the sticking is actually milled into this. So we're talking about was wood, right? And so you can see how the bottom flares out. That's because water got in here, and obviously this would have to be cut off. We were gonna try to use it for a client. Everything is MDF in here, and it's a very heavy door, right? But it's not necessarily well made. Now, the last piece I wanna look at is the door I went to the big box store yesterday and bought. And they range in price from about $70 or $60 down to $50. Ugh. And this I hate because it's kind of a picture of a door. And that's where I might start ranting, right? There's no wood in America that we make doors out of that has this kind of grain texture. I mean, we would have to sandblast the door in order to get grain texture like this, just so we're clear. So it doesn't exist, right? It's a fabrication. It's a falsity that you would have this door. It's a 6-panel door. Panels being the word here, because what you have here is you have a skin dropped onto a hollow core. And so this door probably weighs 15 pounds. It's a 2-foot door. I think it was $60. And so we're gonna jump into this one. And I know there's no joinery. I think it was glued together, but we're gonna kind of dig into it and figure it out. Wow. Okay, that didn't take long. Basically what we've got here is a cardboard. Okay, so we got cardboard. I mean, if you want to be making, building doors out of cardboard, I suppose you can. I don't recommend it as far as longevity. All right, so now I was able to pry it up, and we'll get in here and just kind of lift this skin off here. All right, so you can see that's kind of just peeling up. This really is frustrating. All right, so there's your door, people. There's what $60 buys you. Right? It buys you styrofoam inside, an exterior core. This is what today is considered builder grade. And I'm proud of being a builder. And the thought that this is our grade of doing work means that all we care about as builders is building as cheap and fast as possible. This is a shame. This is a sham. And so it drives me crazy because then
Okay, so I know a lot of you have this in your house. I built a lot of houses when I was in my production builder days with these. It still works. It's still a door. This is definitely your least cost option, around $100. I wouldn't recommend it though. Now, another least cost option that's also hollow core is down here. This is a Luan face hollow core door as well. Very, very lightweight. A lot of more modern houses and production builders that are going modern are doing this. And if you knock on this door, it feels pretty lightweight. And then on the other hand, this other door, which looks exactly the same, I can't lift it to show you the weight, but it's probably, gosh, this door's probably close to 80 pounds, something like this. This door's probably 15. You hear that difference? That's a solid core, and that's really where I'm gonna start as my least cost good door, solid core doors. Now these can range in cost quite a bit, but even less expensive than this one, they don't have it on display, is a hardboard solid core door. I would not recommend those, and I wouldn't recommend the other hollow core doors, but this would be my starting point of least cost good. You're talking about for a Luan face or a birch face with a solid core, this door is probably somewhere in the $150 to $200 range, maybe slightly more. So that would be my first kind of least cost good door. Now when it comes to solid doors, you've got a lot of other options, but let's start here. This is a true pine door, and a bunch of different manufacturers make these as what I would consider commodity doors, which means as long as you get their stock sizes, this is a true wood door, and you can find these sometimes for a pretty good price, like somewhere in the $300 range for a solid wood door. Now you're not going to have a lot of options, and I suspect it's not going to have as nice of moldings as what you're seeing here, but that's also a good option. Now when it comes to solid core though, most of the time these days, this is what a lot of builders are kind of considering as their bottom threshold. This is a true MDF solid core door, and I've had this both in my previous house and my current house, and I'll be honest, I don't like MDF generally for inside of houses because it can have some swelling issues. For instance, look at this bottom of the door here. That MDF goes all the way to the bottom. If I were to sit this in some water, it wouldn't take very long for this to puff up. So if you're getting an MDF solid core door, you really want to make sure that you're nice and painted at the bottom so that, especially in bathroom areas where you might have some moisture, it's not going to soak up. But to be honest, for the price point, you can get a really nice door, and because it's MDF, these panels are not going to move on you, especially for a painted door. So like that pine door we talked about a minute ago, that door is going to move, those panels are going to move, so if you're staining it, you're good to go. You won't notice that. But if you're painting it, you're going to see cracks and changes, swelling as the temperature or really humidity changes in the house over the years. But the other thing that you're going to notice on these style doors is they do have a solid wood insert on both sides. So this is the hinge side, and the strike side is also going to have a solid wood insert. These could be as little as $300. They can also go up hugely from there. I mean, you could see MDF router carved doors that could be easily $1,000. And I suspect some of these models that are a little more complicated, especially from TruStyle, which is a great brand, this door is certainly above $500 and could be as much as $1,000 per door. So those are not inexpensive doors. Now there's an interesting middle ground on doors. Like this is actually a hardboard door. I've used these before. I don't like them because that hardboard face damages pretty easily, whereas that Luan face is a lot more solid. I'd prefer the Luan face. You're going to spend a couple, at least $30 to $50 more for that Luan face compared to the hardboard door, but I think it's better. Now, if you're getting nicer doors, let's say you're doing a slab oak or something like that, this door is going to have an even nicer core, and you're going to see a bunch of different styles from this one that kind of looks like OSB to LSL style. Typically, the most costly door is going to be this, which is a stave core door, which is actually solid wood. So this Luan face, this is probably a mahogany style Luan with a stave core. this could easily be $300–400 per door. But if you're doing hidden doors like you've seen me do in a lot of my videos where you're actually cladding something, you're going to glue and maybe nail into this, you want that stave core. So if you're going to buy some Sugatsuni hinges and have a carpenter do a hidden door, ask for stave core. That's absolutely worth the money. And they can custom size these for you in all kinds of different sizes. So at my house I've got a couple of custom sized, like 9-foot by 3'6" wide, all kinds of weird sizes, especially if you're doing a hidden. A couple of the doors that I hadn't mentioned though that are worth considering. You can get MDF doors that are straight off the shelf, and these are a good option as well. I like the 1 3/4 doors. That's what I used at my house. The 1 3/4, or pardon me, the 1 3/8, that's a little more standard. You're going to see that a little more often. The 1 3/4, it's heavier, it's a little tougher to install, but it's just that much more weight, that much better noise resistance between those rooms. Speaking of weight, by the way, at my house, I used a new tool that I hadn't seen before that I got introduced to about a year ago called the door stud. And in this clip, Patrick, one of my finish carpenters, was using that to install some double doors. And I got to tell you, it was a total game changer. So I'll put a link in the description to that door stud. If you're doing heavier doors, do your finish carpenter a favor and get him a pair of those door studs. Now talk to me about the install and the set on this, Gilbert.
Usually on an install like this, it's kind of hard for one person to do it. But now with these guys right here, down here, man, you can move this door, you walk it in, you get it close enough, and you just slide it right into place.
Okay, 2 final thoughts on interior doors. If you're building a custom home and you've got the budget, boy, they make some really nice doors out there. TruStyle, Simpson, there's a couple other manufacturers. They're making this style door, which has a really thick veneer of, let's say, Rifson white oak here. And you're going to notice this has an LSL core. So that's going to be a really nice door, very solid, and it's not going to move on you. Plus, when they put their style on the end here, you can see that's also a white oak style, so it's going to match the door. These are pricey. These, I think you're going to have a hard time finding any of these doors that are going to have this really beautiful face for much under $1,000 per door. And I would tell you over the years, for the most part, most of my houses get doors that are in the $250 to say $350 range per door. But you do a really cool custom home, it's not unusual to see $2,000, $3,000, even $5,000 or more for some of those interior doors. So there's obviously a huge range. The last thing I want to mention though is don't forget about your hinges. There's kind of 3 manufacturers that I've used the most over the years. Penrod is usually the lowest cost product out there, but you want to specify ball bearing hinges for your interior doors. If you don't, that metal on metal rubbing of the hinges is going to result in this black mark on your jamb. And if you've got painted jambs like I've had on my houses for years, almost always do I have this black streak that I'm cleaning every 6 months or a year. Get the ball bearings, absolutely worth it. Up from Penrod is M-Tech, and that's actually what I used at my house. Oh, by the way, we'll end the video at my house. I'll show you a couple of the products that I used. I like M-Tech. It's a nice middle of the road, a lot of nice options. I did ball bearing. And then kind of the top of the line, if you have the money and you have the budget for it, Baldwin. It makes some amazing products. But spend a little extra on the ball bearing hinges. Hard to know exactly, but I suspect ball bearing hinges are going to add somewhere between maybe as little as $60 for a pre-hung door, all the way up to $100 or more. But like I said, totally worth it because you're not going to have that smudging on your paint over the years. That being said, let's switch gears and talk exterior doors. Okay, exterior doors, let's start with the least cost. That's going to be a steel door. This is actually not steel, this is fiberglass. But typically when you think of a steel door, you're thinking about that fire door that typically needs to be a 20-minute rated door between your house and your garage. I used steel for a long time in my production builder days. That door these days is probably in the $400-ish range, but I really like fiberglass. Since the pandemic and the supply chain issues, the difference between the two, frankly, is not much, maybe 50, 75 bucks. So for a flush fiberglass insulated door between your house and your garage, that's a great door. The other nice thing about this style of door is you've got good insulation in between, and that fiberglass is a really durable face. Now, you can also get much more expensive fiberglass doors. For instance, I was on the JELD-WEN catalog the other day, and they have kind of a good, better, best of fiberglass, where you can get a commodity fiberglass, you know, something like this, $500-600, or you can go all the way up to custom fiberglass. I'm going to show you that later in the video at my house. But fiberglass could be stained on the outside, could be painted on the outside. It's a really nice impervious door, and if you have really minimal overhangs, this is kind of what you want, I think, for an exterior door, is that fiberglass, because you're not going to have any issues with moisture, with wood, having refinishing issues, and you're going to have a really nicely insulated door. But believe it or not, you can still get some molded type panels with fiberglass, and then of course you can add lights to it as well. So this is kind of maybe your next step up. You've got a door out of your laundry room, or maybe you're on a budget. This is your exterior door to your back deck. That's a really nice door. This is Therma-Tru now. Simpson and JELD-WEN also make a similar door out of fiberglass. And you can also check their U-value ratings on the website, which is pretty cool. But a door like this is going to have pretty similar values to a window, something around a U-factor of anywhere from 0.15 to maybe 0.30. And this door, I suspect, is somewhere in the $1,000 range. Now, I really like the flush glazing that a lot of manufacturers have gone to these days, where you don't have a bunch of OGs, you got a much more kind of square sticking on these doors. And I think for that $1,000 to $1,500 range, this is a really nice door. I would totally do this. This is a great budget item. Now, before we talk about exterior doors, I want to do a quick plug for Endura. Because no matter which exterior door you order, you want to get Endura parts for it. Now, they sponsored today's video, but I'll tell you, I've personally been using their products in all my houses that I built for the last 20 years. So these are products that are tested on my houses and I really, really like. For instance, compared to a pine jam, which is what is standard in a lot of door mill shops, this is their Frame Saver Jam. They've put a composite wood in the bottom couple inches of the frame so that water that sits here on an exterior door is not going to rot this. You're also going to notice on the bottom of the sill, the bottom part of the sill that's solid, also a composite material. It's not going to rot. It's not going to have problems. And then when it comes to the door bottom and the sill itself, I really like this Z-Series articulating sill. Check this out. This sill is actually, when the door shuts, going to articulate and really close the door tightly. And then I've got another jam option, or I should say another door option, that I'm going to show you at my house in a minute. But let's go back to wood doors. I've put a lot of wood doors on over the years. They're beautiful. They're also you're gonna spend some bucks on a wood door, but the options are really limitless. Here's a Simpson door that's a true wood door. Brent would be happy about this one. Kind of fun that they're able to do two different woods. So the inside of your house, you could have this, which looks like a vertical crane Doug fir, and then the outside is mahogany. Mahogany is a great exterior wood. Remember though, you do want some overhangs. You want at least a 3 or a 5 foot overhang on that front door to make sure that it's not going to get wet. And then also some other manufacturers have gotten really smart about that wood and switching from solid wood to a wood that's not going to move. So for instance, check this out on this TruStyle door. You actually have an LVL core. Ooh, I really like that. That reminds me of the E-Series windows by Andersen, which are LVL. So on the outside of the door, you have no idea this is not a, what is this, alder maybe? Looking door, oh pardon me, mahogany. But the interior, they're being smart about the wood. It's probably saving a little bit on cost, but really they're doing it to make sure that door is not moving on you. The downside of wood doors in my mind though, is that these are going to be the least efficient out there because you've got solid wood on there. And even at 1 3/4 inches thick, you're really talking about an R2 door, maybe something like that. So you might consider going at least 1 3/4 or maybe even thicker if you're doing a solid wood door on the outside. Now you can get those done through Builders FirstSource, and they'll buy a door from one of these manufacturers, or BFS has a custom mill shop where you can get all kinds of things done, really anything that your designer or architect might come up with. The other thing I've done over the years is had my finish carpenters make a door. I made a beautiful white oak door to kind of match the white oak on a house recently. And then a couple years ago, we made a Spanish cedar painted front door with some crazy details. And that's the kind of fun stuff that I love on exterior doors, but you can still use those Endura parts like we talked about. Now, when we go back to the door showroom, you're gonna see that there's a bunch of different options in that showroom, and some of those are painted, some are stained, but it really boils down to wood doors, fiberglass doors, or steel doors. And as I mentioned, fiberglass I really, really like for an exterior door. I think it's a great option, but you can spend some bucks, and I'm gonna show you that in a minute. The other great option is, of course, wood. And this is really, especially if it's your front door, this is where you should spend the money and get that really beautiful entryway. With that being said, guys, let's go to my house, and I'm gonna show you 3 different door styles I used at my house. I'll meet you there. Hey guys, welcome to my house. Let's talk exterior doors here, but of course, you gotta mention my plastic Jesus from the 70s. Absolutely, my wife loves decorating for Christmas. So this entryway, this is a fiberglass entryway. I was looking for black, so this is painted. You can see we beat it up in a couple places where I've got 4 kids coming through. But this is a very, very efficient door that I had custom built through JELD-WEN. This is their kind of best line when it comes to fiberglass. Customized on size. This is a specialty height. I want to say I've got a 7'6" front door here because that's all I could do in terms of height, but also getting my header in there. Custom width to my hallway. Not an inexpensive door. This entryway is going to run you probably $10K or maybe slightly more, but it was exactly how I wanted it. I also got triple glazed glass in here, and then of course, because this fiberglass, this is filled with insulation, and I was even able to customize these details like this hardware cutout, the glass size, everything I needed. It's a really nice door. On interior doors, I used router carved, and again, I customized these as well. So this is going to be an upper end full MDF door. These are probably somewhere in the 750, maybe 850 range for a router carved MDF door. They're real heavy, 1 3/4 thick. I've got this nice MTech hardware, and this is the door that you maybe saw that B-roll of Patrick installing. Heavy double doors, but man, they work great. And I've got MTech ball bearing hinges everywhere, so you're not seeing any of those black lines. But the door I really wanted to show you is probably the least cost door or maybe item in my whole house, and that's right over here. Oh, actually, before we go there, one other thing I wanted to show you. Sorry for the, my wife hopefully won't watch this video and realize I didn't clean up. This door on the exterior of my house was a custom door made by Fenster. This is an all-wood door. You can see we clear finished it. Fenster built it for my custom size. But because of this awning that I've got here, this is almost a 5-foot overhang. I've got no splashback. A year later, this door is looking really good. So you can get away with a true wood door, unclad even, just like my unclad windows over here. But you need really good overhangs. You don't want to have these in a spot where they're getting wet on a regular basis. Now the least cost door though, let me meet you over by the garage. Okay, the least cost door in my house, but also one of my favorites. This is a fiberglass door, insulated, 20-minute fire rated, that's separating my laundry, kind of my wife's office space from my garage. Now this door, pretty nice budget price point, but here's how I made the kind of leap in air tightness that I was really looking for. If you watch any of the videos about my house under construction, I was building this to passive house standards. I haven't gotten it rated, but it's very, very airtight. And I thought about having a passive house manufacturer actually make me a custom door that would be crazy tight between my house and my garage, but I frankly just didn't have it on my budget. So this door, a couple $100 door in fiberglass, you know, probably in the $400, $450 range. Solid, nothing special. In fact, I need to clean it. It's gotten dirty. But here's how I jumped up the performance. Check out this. This is a lock system from Endura that they call Panalock. This is routed into the edge of the door. And when you lock the door with just your standard hardware, by the way, this is just MTech hardware. It accepts any hardware. When you flip that lock, you're noticing right here, there's no deadbolt. This is just your standard, what do they call that? The standard catch, but it actually comes out like a deadbolt. And then these two fins in the Panalock extend as well, and they're kind of shark fin shaped. You can see they're angled. And what's cool about this is on the jamb, this is also obviously their jamb as well, there's a roller system on these 3 strike plates. And that roller system, when the shark fin comes, it pushes that door in place. So I've got really good air tightness. And when I did my blower door test, I didn't see any leakage. I couldn't feel any leakage around this door whatsoever. I also have that articulating sill like you saw at the showroom a few minutes ago. And then lastly, this is something that I really like that's not standard. You need to ask for it. This is the replaceable deck sill, or RDS system. This piece right here, which coincidentally has gotten scratched at some point, I did not realize that, is super easy to replace. And in fact, I think I have a replacement sill that I stocked in my attic in case this happened. Kind of funny that at my house I need to do that. If you've seen their IBS displays, they'll let you actually nail a sill with a hammer, drop a brick on it, scratch it up. And in the past, when I've had to replace sills out, when that happened, huge pain, because you actually usually have to sawzall out the jamb, pull that out, put a new one in. There's a bunch of caulking, and it's at least 2 or 3 hours of a carpenter's time to really get it right. Then you got to get the painter involved. This, on the other hand, drop a putty knife in there, and on the bottom here, that putty knife articulates. You pull that sill out and just pop a new one in with a dead blow hammer. Super easy, very, very easy fix. All right, guys, that's the end of the video, and my dog's whining in the background, so we should probably cut it off. Big thanks to Endura for sponsoring today's video. As I mentioned at the beginning, I've been using their products for, gosh, over 20 years now on my builds, and everything we talked about today is pretty reasonable in cost. This Panalock system, probably going to be around 200 bucks to you as the builder, as the end user. The replaceable sill cap that we saw, that's probably a $15, $20 ad to get that. The Z-Series articulating sill, a lot of people have Endura products standard. In fact, BFS, if you buy through them, that I've bought from for a long time, they don't even give you an option. They give you automatically in their prices, especially for the custom builders, I should say, the Endura Frame Saver Jam and the standard sill from Endura. So all you got to do is just double check that you've gotten the additional Endura parts, and potentially consider Panalock too. I really like this system. Standard hardware, better air tightness, and better security too, frankly. You could throw a battering ram at this thing and it wouldn't allow you in very easily at all. Guys, if you're not currently a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. We've got new content here every Tuesday and every Friday. Follow me on TikTok or Instagram, otherwise we'll see you next time on The Build Show.